Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Security Expo podcast series, and today we are talking with Hannah Mason. Hannah is the Director of Production, Events and Security at the Sydney Opera House. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much. It's lovely to be here.
Now, Hannah, you're not someone who is traditionally from a security background. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in your current role?
Yes, so my background is actually in management. I've been in management for about 25 years, and I've been working at the Opera House for 3.5 years, running the production and event department. Production events is staging, lighting, sound, technical services to put on shows. And we had some changes internally in the directors, and we were looking at security, and it was an area which has a lot of similarities in its workforce with the workforce that I managed. And so I decided to put my hand up to become the Director of Security, to add it to my portfolio. And after a process of a comparative process, I was appointed to the role, and I've been looking after it for over a year. And I do have a head of security, an extremely experienced head of security. So he is the security expert in terms of he's the liaison with all the law enforcement agencies, the government, and I'm very much there to support him and the teams. But my experience has predominantly been in management and venues and some people management.
Okay. So in your current role as Director of Security, what does that role actually entail? Is it really just sort of oversight and supervision of the head of security in the grander scheme of things, or do you get hands on it all? What does that involve?
There's everything really. So very much supporting the head of security and his senior leadership team. I meet with the senior leadership team on a weekly basis. So I'm very much involved in the operational side of what's happening, how the teams are running, the issues that we might face, any incidents that have happened. I get daily reports on incidents. So I'm very much involved and supporting the team on that sort of daily basis.
Yep. Given that this is your sort of first go round in a Director of Security role, what for you has been the biggest surprise?
I don't think there's been many surprises, to be honest. Probably the amount of incidents we deal with on a daily basis, just small things, because obviously we get a lot of visitors to the site. And so there's always small things, especially when it gets dark and alcohol's involved. We have a lot of people on site that may be, a bit worse for wear, so we have to deal with that. But as part of the executive team in the Opera House, we're always fully briefed on security. So the key issues that we were facing, as in the threat level, our risk profile, all of those things, I was already well across because that's part of my job as an executive.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that insofar as much as you can, because I understand some of it will be sensitive, but the Sydney Opera House is possibly, if not the most iconic site in Australia, and a site that is well recognised around the world. And if there were going to be a target somewhere in Australia, it's high on the list. How much of that factors into the daily operations and the thinking around security?
It's key. We are definitely the number one target. And so we have invested in the last 10 years in a very significant upgrade in our CCTV. So we have a very sophisticated system, which allows us, we have a dedicated team that obviously monitor that system 24 hours a day. We have a workforce of officers who also control the inside and outside of the precinct. And we also have very, very close links with New South Wales Police, counter-terrorism, and the armed forces, who also regularly attend site to do some training. There's regular training with all of those forces. So it's very much every day we are aware of that and making sure that we are taking all the precautions that we need.
Yep. Now, I imagine as far as challenges are concerned, one of the challenges that's perhaps quite unique to the Opera House, and you will understand this better than most, is that artists, which you deal with all day, every day, are very outside the square thinkers. They're rule breakers by nature. So they probably don't deal very well with being told what to do and where to go and on all the passes and that sort of thing. I mean, does the artist nature and contingent that you're dealing with every day at the Opera House present unique challenges from a security point of view?
Really, we do find that people that come here respect the regulations and the procedures that we have in place. We have a very capable team of account managers and production managers who look after artists as they come in. And everybody is very aware of the importance of security and the need to abide by the rules and follow process. So we very rarely have artists that push back against anything, because ultimately what we're doing is for their safety. So they don't tend to push back. No.
Okay. Given that you've been involved in the arts and entertainment space for so long, have you seen a change in that thinking over the last 10 years? Like, do you think people have come to understand that this is important and we need to take it more seriously?
I think so. I don't think you can witness world events and think that you're immune or isolated from being impacted by those things. So I think everybody is keenly aware that they are performing in a very high-profile place. And so they've got to, take the necessary precautions and follow the advice of the people that know best. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's often, I suppose, an inclination when world events happen for corporate entities to be seen to be taking a stance on certain things. And sometimes you may have a situation where there's an issue where someone wants to place something on the sales outside the Sydney Opera House to show solidarity in a particular situation. How much of that are you made aware of in advance, and how much of that factors into sort of your risk planning? And do you get to say, listen, I don't think we should be doing this, or this is a bad idea for these reasons, or yeah, that's a great idea? How much of that is brought to your desk?
Well, the lighting of the sales is governed by policy, which is agreed with the government. So the New South Wales government really has signed up to a policy around what can and can't be displayed on the sales. And there's a process that we go through in order to decide what goes on the sales. That's actually not part of my remit. It's another department that decides that. But it is reserved for certain occasions and certain events that might happen.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. So from a day-to-day point of view, what for you in your role are the biggest challenges as the Director of Security at an iconic site like the Sydney Opera House?
Well, I think it's about having a great team, maintaining that training, that level of training that we need to ensure that we are providing a great service, because a lot of what my security team do is customer service, because we get, millions of visitors here every year. And their role is protecting, but also serving the public and making sure that they have a great time when they're here. So it's about making sure that we get that balance right, that we are being careful and we are looking after people, but we're also allowing people to have fun, making sure that they enjoy the shows, not making people fearful. So it's security that is not invisible, it's a visible presence, but it's not oppressive. So it's very important that we get that balance right. We do have to screen people coming into the venue, and those sorts of things. It's a minor inconvenience for people, but it's necessary, and I'll just keep them safe. So it is about having the right staff, the right team, getting that training right, and also integrating with the rest of the house, because there's about 1,000 people that work at the Opera House. So it's making sure that security is seen as an integral part of putting on shows, of opening up the venues, and also making the precinct, the wider precinct, an accepting place for people to come and visit.
Great. And so given that your portfolio covers production, events and security, I'm curious to know, when you say you've recently introduced a new CCTV system, which has far broader capabilities and whatnot, do you look at that CCTV system and technology like that around the Opera House through the broader lens and go, hang on a second, from a production and events point of view, we're gathering all sorts of interesting data here, which can help us with marketing. It can help us with operations. It can help us with all sorts of things. Like, do you look at that through a lens beyond just security?
No, it's a system only for security. It's not a monitoring system to allow us to do anything else. It's very separate. So no, we don't do that. The only thing we use the system for is people counting to see how many people are actually on site at any time, and that's obviously for a safety point of view, and it obviously informs us of visitation. But otherwise, no, it's very much for security purposes only.
Okay, because I thought there might be some interesting applications in there that don't necessarily breach privacy guidelines, but things like, oh, we can tell when this performer comes in based on the demographics that we've got more males in this age group as opposed to females or anything like that. But it's interesting to know that that's...
We get that data from ticket sales and, rather than from security. It would be very hard to get that level of data. Because you would have to be identifying every single person. It's such a large area for us to identify that information. So it's more about ticket sales that we get that information from.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. So have you noticed any sort of overarching trends or challenges occurring in security in your space over the last, given that it's only been the last 12 months or so, it's a short window, but is there anything that sort of leaps out at you?
Well, the change to probables, obviously, meant that we've had probable posture for a long time. We didn't really change our posture when it changed. It changed in 2015 to probable, and then it changed again, and now it's gone back up to probable. We didn't really change our posture. We improved our posture by investing in the CCTV, and we've also invested in a lot more training for our officers. Obviously, the threat is edge weapons, following on from Bondi, other incidents. Edge weapons is the number one thing that we are looking out for. We also have closed off the front of the site, so you can't actually drive a vehicle unless you are allowed onto the site, but you can't just drive up, whereas previously you could. So it's really about that edge weapons, having that vigilance in our control room to look for people, picking up people on entry through our scanners to make sure that they're not. It's amazing how many people carry some sort of sharp implement, and often it can be a penknife or a multi-tool or even a knife for cutting up fruit. We have all sorts come through, and scissors, and we do screen for those on entry, but we're always on the lookout for that edge weapon.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting challenge. I remember even as a child, my mother would carry a Swiss Army knife around in her handbag because it had scissors and tweezers and, a corkscrew and everything under the sun. And it would have never have even occurred to her that was an edged weapon. It was just something she did. Yeah.
And most people forget they've got it in their bag, and usually we can take it away and give it back if it's a significant, item for them.
Sure. Now, last but not least, I believe you're going to be speaking at the security conference later on this year. Are you able to give us sort of like a 30-second to 2-minute snapshot of what your presentation will be covering?
I'm on a panel, so I'm not presenting. It's just on a panel answering questions around the changing landscape of security and the things that we have obviously had to change. So it'll be very much around a change in posture, what we're looking out for, the investment in technology, which is really the main thing, I think, for all security environments, is that investment in technology, because it allows us to see a lot more in a very short space of time, and also then offer help very quickly. So it's very much about how the landscape's changed, what the threat has changed to, because 10 years ago, it was terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
That was what we were looking out for. Now it's not that. Not that we are, saying there can never be a terrorist attack, but it's more likely to be a lone wolf with an edged weapon. And that's what we're looking out for more, although we're obviously still very hardened to any terrorist activity. So that's changed, that's definitely changed in the last 10 years. So, it's about that really, what's changing in the landscape and how we are adapting to it.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any doubt that AI is going to have a fairly big impact on everything that we're doing moving forward, from screening crowds to predictive algorithms to being able to pick up on edged weapons and all sorts of other things. But Hannah, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, given that you're super busy and have so many things on, and we look forward to seeing you at the Security Expo.
No problem. Lovely to chat. Thank you.